Today, I'm going to share with you how to scale up your collage ideas to make big, beautiful art pieces. The tips I'll share are easy, and I'll demonstrate them using my giant Oyster collage project. Don't worry though, these tips will apply no matter how large or small you want to work. If you've ever wondered how artists go big, this one's for you. I'm Jackie Bernardi, and welcome to my studio. Okay, so what we're working on today is enlarging the Oyster so that I can start collaging it. And I already did this, and unfortunately I did have to do this off camera because it's too light inside the art studio here. And the way that I expanded or enlarged my inspiration piece was using a projector. I'm going to show you that in a second, but I could not get it to capture on film because I need too much light in the room for the camera to pick up on it. But that light was too much for you to be able to see the projector working. So I will have to do another video at some point where I find a very dark room and figure out how to film that so that you can see the process of using the projector, exactly how to use it to expand the piece. But in a second, I'm going to show you the inspiration Oyster, and that was used and projected onto this canvas here. And I spent quite a bit of time actually lining up the Oyster to where I wanted it on the background, not based on the background, actually more based on how much room I would have on the sides to wrap it around a frame once it was done. So this placement that I have here feels pretty balanced, and with same distance above as below and on the side, so that when this does get framed, if someone chooses to frame it, that it should be pretty balanced, okay? So that's what I have here. Now, what I used, well, let me start with the projector, actually. So this is my projector. It's a Kato, and I will link to this in the description below. You don't have to work this large to get huge benefit out of a projector like this. You can actually work very small and still be able to project an image so that you can have an excellent reference to start your work with, whether you're painting, whether you're collaging, whatever. Instead of using tracing paper and then overlaying that on your substrate and then tracing that down, that's a lot of work. Whereas you just flip on your projector, whatever projector you use, you just flip it on and literally it projects onto the surface at whatever size you want, and then you can just sketch it out like I did. So here's my projector that I use. It's a digital projector, and I think it's pretty terrific. It's a little bit pricey, but this will probably last me forever, and I can do tons and tons of work with this. So just wanted to let you know about this. Okay, let me show you what I used to actually draw this out. I first drew it out with this giant graphite stick that I have. This thing is mammoth. I could live 8 artist lifetimes and still not use this entire thing. But what I did first was I just took the graphite and I just did a quick sketch around, again, using the image that was being projected from the projector. And I just did a light sketch around just to get the shape. Now, I went over it with a black woody Stabilo pencil. It's a water-soluble pencil. And I went over the graphite with this. Now, I know you're going to ask why I did both. I'm going to tell you why. I was not convinced when I first put the projector on here with the image with the size that I thought I wanted it. And so I wanted to sketch it out with something that I knew I could essentially wash away easily. That nothing's easier to wash away than graphite on a well-conditioned surface. And what I mean by that is if you've been watching along this series, you know I have many, many layers of acrylic paint on this background. Right now, it's pretty much water impermeable, right? So I can spray this with a ton of water with just the graphite on it and make the graphite go away completely, leaving no dark marks or anything. Even though the woody is also water soluble, It's much more tenacious than graphite. So if I blew the first sketch, like let's just say I didn't get it right, and that's okay. If I blew the first sketch with with the woody, it would be really hard to scrub out and fix. Whereas with the graphite, I could just literally put it on a rag, wipe it down, and Bob's your uncle is gone. Okay, so that's why I used the graphite. I went over with the woody though, and actually got a finer detailed line by using the woody. You can see it's pretty dull now because I did the whole thing. But I outlined the entire thing over the graphite that I had already put there. In some places I went over, in some places I refined the line. Like in through here, you can see there's some graphite that came out over here. I made sure that the woody really followed the curve that I wanted. I'll go back and erase that later with some water. But I just wanted to get really a rough sketch and also create an idea that separated the shell of the oyster, which is, of course, this outside part, from the meat of the oyster, which is all in this area. When I did the oyster series last year, I didn't use a projector to project this image. In fact, I just hand sketched it out. And I did that on medical exam paper, then cut it out and then glued the medical exam paper onto the background so I could continue on and do the work, right? So I didn't have to sketch it out like this. However, I did, underneath both of these, I made a delineation between what was shell, what was meat, so that when I went in with the collage on this one, I would know where to put the papers. I would have a general idea, right? And the same thing with this one, which was painted. And I wanted to have a feel for where the meat of the oyster was. The problem when you're working really large like this is scale, right? And so if I had only sketched out the shell, who knows what the heck the meat on the inside would look like, and getting it to scale would take an awful lot of time and actually might not be that fun. And I'm all about the joy in doing this. So I don't want to set myself up for failure, or not even failure, but I don't want to set myself up for stress. I just want to enjoy this process. So that's what I did. And I just did the finer detailing with the Stabilo woody. And I do have to say, you all may remember that I had a lot of these graphite marks that I had done on the background earlier that I love so much. And I still love them. Now they're on the inside of the oyster, most of them, like this over here. And they will be covered up because I'm going to be collaging and painting the oyster, but it's primarily collage. So I may want to go back later and add some more graffiti or graphite on the outside. I don't think that this background is done yet. It's all very mid-tone value, and I think I want to change that at some point. But what I really need to do is start shaping in this oyster. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how I do that from this rough sketch. And we may even get to some collage today. All right? So I'm going to get started. Okay. To get started, I am going to be using this brush. It's called a sash brush, and traditionally it's been used to get into grooves and windowsills and clean out and so on. I'm going to be using this. Why I'm choosing to use this as my brush component is because it can hold a lot of water, right? And I do want this to hold water for what I'm about to do. It's also going to hold medium. And it comes to a nice point, and I don't know if you can see, ooh, my hands are filthy from that charcoal. I don't know if you can see the point, maybe better up against my sleeve, but that's going to help me get some detail if I want some detail. I want to say this really clearly to get started. I don't care about this outline being perfect at all. It's a sketch. Majority of it's going to be covered regardless. But I just wanted to get in there and make the line more obvious for my eye as I'm walking through with collage. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm first going to spray with just, I have water in my continuous spray bottle. I'm just going to get the bristles of this a little bit wet. I really should have some paper towel or some baby wipes. Let me grab some. All right, I've got some baby wipes here. Just if it gets running really crazy, I don't want to be chasing it or letting it dry if there's some runs that I don't love. As you can tell from the background, I've been really enjoying the look of the run with the paints and so on. But for what I'm doing today, I don't really want that. And if I do want that later, I can go back and put that in, okay? No missed opportunities here. So this is kind of damp now, and just so I can show you, with just water alone, let me get a little bit more wet. With just water alone, right, I can go in here and smudge out the graphite and the Stabilo Woody, just so I can get a more pronounced line. Now remember, this is going to be collaged, right? So these lines, as dark as they are, I'm not so worried about because we're probably not going to see them. And in fact, they'll probably get so covered up that I may decide to go in later with a woody or some other, graphite or pencil or something and make marks so that we can see more definition. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. But for now, what I'm going to do, that was just to show you that how easily it moves around. What I'm going to do is I am going to use some matte medium. And this is just the Liquitex matte medium. I have my spray bottle with water in case I need it. And I've got my sash brush. You do not have to use a sash brush. But if you don't have one in your inventory of brushes, I do recommend it because there's a lot of things that you can do with this, particularly with mark making, that would be more challenging with other types of tools. And, it's just a different tool to have in your inventory. Okay, so this is matte medium that I'm using here. And if I know you all well enough, you're going to say, why? Why matte medium for this? Why not just water? Even though I'm going to be going over this with collage materials, I do want to set it, right? I don't want to constantly be having to go back in with the projector and redrawing this. So by using matte medium with the sash brush and, putting it, or any brush, and going right over the graphite and the Stabilo Woody, once that dries, the line work will be more permanent, right? It'll be set. So I can go over it with collage without worrying about the line disappearing or smearing to be unrecognizable, all right? So for anybody who's thinking that this is cheating or taking the easy way to work large, this is how artists work large. They use projectors, they project on, they create a sketch to help keep them balanced. Most people, like myself, only have a small amount of room in their studio to work. And so for me to stand back from this piece, which I'm going to do a lot, I can't stand back far enough to really be able to tell if the scale is correct, right? So by doing this and making it very obvious and somewhat permanent, I can see it much better. But I just want you to know that this really is how artists work large when they're working on something representational. If you're working on something completely abstract, you may not use this process at all. But if you've ever seen, let's say, a photograph that you took of some gorgeous flowers or whatever, and you wanted to replicate them really large, this would be one very easy way to do it, okay? So I'm just showing you the finer points of this. You could probably figure out how to draw onto, or how to expand a drawing using a projector, or even some more old-fashioned methods like creating a grid on here and then hand drawing it based on a drawing that you did on a grid elsewhere. But this is just an easier way of getting what you want to get to, right? And having it be more likely to be successful right out of the gate. I don't know why I keep going back to that spot. I think there's something about the shape there that I'm not 100% in love with. Okay, so let me continue on here. Actually, what I could do, because this line here, see that little line there? That little line represents sort of like the ridge of the shell. If you've ever felt an oyster shell, you have like this area that looks like whitish or grayish, whatever. But usually there's a ridge on certain points of the shell. Of course, I don't have an oyster shell right here to show you what I mean. But so I'm going to keep this value in here pretty gray. And again, the combination of the graphite and the Stabilo woody allows me to do this so that I remember, right, when I start collaging, that this area is supposed to be kind of gritty and it's supposed to represent the very outside of the shell that is just crumbly and fantastic and all that. And again, because this is so large and I'm standing so close to it while I work, and because I'm a certain age where I need glasses when I'm working close like this, these little references will make it much easier for me as I continue collaging this piece. Plus, for those of you who know me and know me well, you know I love the shimmery effect when graphite gets wet. And that's what you're seeing here. And I love that. I'm not going to apologize for that. It's just a Jackie thing. And it's just a happy accident or happy benefit that it's also going to serve the collage itself. Like, I'm going to stand back right now and take a look. And oh yeah, this is going to help me so much in terms of knowing what to do, not only with the inside of the collage, but the outside, right? Before, it was just a whole big giant field of pinks and blues and purples and fluorescent greens and, you know, all of that stuff. See how easy that comes off? And this will help make it more visually accurate. Visually accurate? Is that what I want to say? I'm not sure if that's what I want to say. Maybe that's a Jackieism that I'm making up there. But it's going to help me keep everything in scale, I guess is what I want to say. I'm not entirely sure if I'm on camera here, and it's really not important for me to be on camera here as long as you're seeing what I'm doing. I'm going to try to zoom in on what I'm doing here so that you can see, one, exactly what I'm doing, but also the reason why I'm recommending the sash brush for this kind of large-scale sketching, all right? So just putting some more matte medium on here, right? Nice point there. As I go down this line, you might be able to see, like, it's sketchy, meaning like I went back and forth with the graphite and the Stabilo, and I want to make it a little more refined, the line a little more refined. So if I go in with the sash brush and use a decent amount of pressure, I can form the line in a really crisp, super defined. Look at that! Like, oh, I love this. I love it. It serves its purpose, but also creates this gorgeous, gorgeous line. So that's why I'm saying sash brush. And again, like everything else, I'll link to it in the description. So you can get your hands on it if that is something that you think you want in your toolbox. Now, just like any other brush, this brush will let you know when it needs to be refilled with some medium. Because as I got down here, that really refined line that we had going through here, while we had matte medium on the brush, it starts to peter out and get a little, I don't know if you can see it, but a little finicky, a little feathery, I guess, and not as precise. So I'm going to go back in and fix that by pushing it out, pushing the medium out, getting all that feathered paint under control. And get this going the way that I want it to be going. Because I'm on camera, I'm having to position my body differently than I normally do. I don't normally paint like this, although I'm not above painting like that. There's nothing wrong with painting like that. It's just I'm conscious. Excuse me. I'm conscious of not getting in the way of what you should be seeing, and seeing me is not the thing you should be seeing. All right, so here we go again. Again, getting that nice crisp edge. Looks like I had a lot of graphite in here. I'm not worried about this being dark or even the brush strokes because, again, this is all going to be covered with collage. This is just guidelines for me. And to that end, I should say this. I'm making a big deal about the nice sharp line here. You don't need to have a sharp line. It will make it easier in covering it with collage later, but it's not necessary. So if you're using a brush that doesn't give you like perfectly sharp lines, as long as you're not going for a perfectly sharp line look, that's fine. I'm just giving you options. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I am so excited to get started on the collage for this. You have no idea. You all think you've been waiting. Whew. I've been waiting, Mama. I was on a vacation last week, an actual vacation. That's why nobody received a newsletter from me last week. And I was in Hawaii on the island of Kauai. And I had the incredible experience. I don't know if you've ever done this, but I took a vacation where I actually took a vacation. I didn't go online. I didn't look at emails. I didn't even take pictures. I was in paradise and I didn't even take pictures. I slept a lot. I laughed a lot. I ate probably more than I should have, whatever. And had a wonderful time. And one of the things that happened while I was there was I realized I really, really want to get working on this collage. It's been super fun building it up as I've been going along. But truthfully, it's time. It's time for this to start taking shape. Now you may be wondering what I'm doing here. This line here. That's probably accurate, this line, from the original inspiration drawing, which I'm going to have to dig that out to show you. But I don't know how I feel about that right now. I don't know if I want to fill that in or not. So what I'm going to do is just ease that out a little bit. I'm going to stand back and look. Okay, I'm going to tighten up the line a little bit. I may change my mind on that later. I'm being very specific where I shouldn't be. It's not the time to be specific. But there's something about that that's just not hitting me right. So I'm just going to let it dry and see what it wants from me once it's dry. I'll tell you, paintings will always tell you what it wants. Okay. All right. Need to flush that out a little bit. This is just representing the natural undulations that go around an oyster shell. Okay. Now, I don't really want to go over everything up here that I've done until it's actually dry. And the reason for that is I don't want to pick up on the medium that's already there. And the more layers I go over it now, it will make it harder to erase layers later if I need to. I'm really not going to need to erase anything. Instead of erasing, in this case, probably what I would do if something went over that I didn't like, I'd probably paint it out, right? Just because there's so much going on in the background. But again, these are options for you, not directives. Okay? So feeling pretty good about the outside shell work here. And now I've been waiting all day to say this. Now, let's get into the meat of it. Oh my God. I should have been a dad. Like, seriously, I'm a dad joke person. Oh boy. Okay. All right, what I know for sure is that all of this up here is a darker value, right? The neck of a oyster shell tends to be darker, actually. It tends to go directionally like that. I'm not going to see any of this underneath the collage. I can pretty much guarantee it. But I'm just showing you, if you want to start blocking in some directionality on a piece, you can do it as early as the sketching stage, right? No one's going to tell you you can't do that. I'm not going to tell you you can't do that. All right. Okay, I'm fine with that. Now I need to go in and set the lines for the meat. And I'm going to really try to not be confused by this in here, because that is the original graffiti-like marks that I made that, I don't know why I put them right in the middle, because I knew the middle would be covered by the oyster, but you know, live and learn. It's all good. Another interesting thing that some of you may be picking up on, seeing, maybe I'll zoom in here, is that with the matte medium going over the graphite and Stabilo woody, but primarily the graphite, and pulling it into the center like this, it's actually creating a glaze. And so if you look in here, I really don't know if this is picking up, but you can see below the glaze that was made with the matte medium and the graphite, and it just darkened it a little tiny bit. So this could be a glazing method for you. I'm not even talking large scale. I'm just talking about, like, even in your art journal. If you wanted to try out glazing and all you had was graphite and some matte medium, you can glaze with it. So just thought you might want to know the way my brain works. I see things that I want to try, and in fact, what will happen as soon as I'm done with this session, I'm going to go into my art journal and write that down, because I had never really considered that before. I'm seeing it right in front of my eyes right now. I'm loving what I'm seeing, and I want to be able to replicate that sometime intentionally on a piece where this would be the final layer, right? So it just never occurred to me before to actually glaze with graphite. How cool is that? Okay. Okay. That's old. This is new. So let me... And again, not worried at all that this is so dark here or so liney defined. I'm not worried about that, because all of that will be covered. All of it will be covered with collage papers, painted papers, the painted papers that I've been working on for a year. I will undoubtedly create more painted papers, because it's kind of my thing. It's really, really my thing. And in truth, you may be seeing things coming out of this that you're like, oh, God, I'd love to do that. Like, you might actually love to do this and leave the oyster just like this. I mean, maybe a little more finished, but like with just the outline. I mean, I think it actually looks pretty cool, just even as an outline. When you watch me do things, I want you to take the things that I do or the things I'm talking about and see if it is interesting to you. And if it is, do it in your own way. Give it a try. Work it out. Like, that's, I mean, truthfully, I think that's the point of watching all these YouTube videos is, for anybody's videos, is to look at what they're doing, right? And explore it and then make it your own, right? How cool. Oh, okay. In case you're wondering, I'm using my 8x10 gel plate as a palette for the matte medium, just because I don't want to have a ton of stuff right here while I'm filming. I'm already having to do this in a little bit of a precarious position for me. So I've got my gel plate, just using it as the palette, and, keeping everything really minimalist over here while I do this. I don't need to have my whole studio on this wall right now. You'll get to see that once I start doing the collaging. Okay, starting to lose its edge there. Okay. Now, if this is the first time you're seeing anything to do with the Giant Oyster project, you have questions, I know. So the Giant Oyster project was something I decided I wanted to give a whirl a year ago. And so I did a whole sketch in my sketchbook, which you saw. I did a collage in my sketchbook. I did a painting in my sketchbook. And I wanted to get a feel for what I thought the oyster would want and need before I started working really large with it. All right, so we'll consider it kind of a mini study. And I loved the process so much in that mini study that I decided that, yes, in fact, I did want to do a giant oyster. And it took me a year to figure out where the heck I was going to do a giant oyster in my studio. Up until recently, my studio was completely different. And a couple months ago, I shared a video of the refresh of my studio, and I'll link to that in case that's something you want to see. But anyway, so I built this wall, or this wall was here. I moved furniture so I'd have this wall so I could work really, really large on it. So this canvas that I'm working on is probably 6 feet wide, 5.5 feet wide. I'm not sure. I can get the dimensions. And it's about 8 feet to the floor. And what I wanted to end up with is a finish work that was 6 feet high and a giant oyster on it. And that's what I am working toward now and what I've been working toward for a year. So once I finished that studio refresh, I had the space to start working. And then I did the videos where I worked on the background. And again, I'll link to all of this in the description below. So if you haven't been here, and this is the first time you're seeing this experience, you can go ahead and watch the backstory. Now, the question I get a lot is, hang on one second, I just have to take a look and see where I am, because I think I have these all set right now. Give me 1 second. I'm going to continue that thought. Although technically correct, this feels a little too narrow on this side. Okay, to finish that thought, right? So that's kind of the backstory on how the oyster started coming into existence. But really what you want to know is why, right? I get that question all the time. Why? Why do you want to do a 6-foot oyster? And my answer is purely for the challenge of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I may keep it, I may sell it, I may roll it up and put it in a corner. I don't know. I won't know until it's done, but I have never challenged myself to work on such a large piece that was even abstractedly realistic, right? When I work large, and when I've worked large in the past, it's been either very abstract or it's been like, oh, a finish on a wall. So, so this is the first time that I'm attempting something in such large scale, and like most things I do, I chose to do it on camera so that you all could experience it as well and make your own decisions about what you want to do working large or not. And you may learn from my experience that you have no interest in working large at all, even if you could. Or it might get you so excited that you're like, Jackie, can I come over to your studio and use your giant wall? But regardless, the information that I'm sharing here is mostly relevant whether you're working huge like this or you're just working in your sketchbook. The explorations, the principles of things are all pretty much the same, right? So let me step back. Yeah, I'm getting happy with this. All right, I'm going to move this and I'm going to bring the camera over and show you where we're at for now. Okay, this is where we're at. Like, can you, I hope you can see the scale here, but this has settled my brain in terms of scope and scale. So when I was only working on the background and had the sketch not up yet, you know, I had a feeling for where this would end up in terms of space, but I wasn't 100% positive. And a couple videos ago, when I was toning down the background, I was sitting there thinking, you know, I don't know if this area is going to be covered or if it'll be outside the oyster, and especially down near the bottom. And I was getting a little nervous, like, I don't know what this is going to be. And so I wanted to get the sketch up here as quickly as possible. And the truth is what I've decided that I am going to start the collaging before I finish the background, right? And the reason for that is depending on what direction I go in. What did I do with the book? There it is. Okay. Depending on which direction I go in, whether I go in with a nice soft painted look for the oyster, or I go in with this like really electric looking multimedia version of the oyster, or something else entirely. I don't want the background dictating what happens inside the oyster. The oyster is the subject. The background is lovely and I like it and so on. It's going to change probably even dramatically once this oyster starts getting filled in. So you may see me go back and forth between the subject and the collage and the background painted. Like, you may see me working both at the same time. But at the end of the day, I love the cliche, at the end of the day, the oyster is the subject. And so from this point forward, my primary focus is going to be on what's happening in here, and then secondarily what's happening out here. I hope that makes sense. All right, I think that's it for today. I'm going to let it dry a little. I'm going to come back and see if I need to go over the edges again. How I'm going to know whether I need to or not is I'm very literally just going to get my thumb wet and I'm going to rub it out over the edge and see what happens. If it gets muddy, if it gets smeary on the outside, I'll probably put on another coat of matte medium. If it behaves and stays as it is, I'm just going to start collaging. All right, so I don't know when that will happen, but for today, I'm just going to let this, oh, I missed a line. I'm going to let it dry out just a little bit. Let me get this one line because that's going to really bother me on another day. I see what's going on there. Okay. All right. Yep. That's it, Mamacita. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you come back. I hope you watch the other videos if you haven't, because it's just an interesting project. Again, it doesn't really matter if you ever want to work really large or not. The entire process of this giant oyster project contains so much information that will impact small projects, tiny projects, or massive projects, right? There's something for everybody in this one. I really believe that. Thank you so much for being here, and this is what I would watch next.